And we have a go for auto sequence start. T-minus 17 seconds and counting. All systems are go. Start. 2, 1. Booster ignition and liftoff.
It's time to charge up with Victor Pisano.
Hey everybody, Victor Pisano with Charge Up. Thanks for taking the time to listen to this week's edition of the Powercast. I've titled this podcast Rise Up in an effort to call attention to the importance of raising others up. Just defining leadership in and of itself, it can be complicated because if you Google the word leadership, you're going to get about 479 million results. And each definition, it's going to be as unique as there are individual leaders out there. However, leadership, regardless of how you define it, it plays a critical role in every organization, and I'm confident that we can agree on that statement. An objective of anyone who assumes the role of leader should always be to create other leaders. Although you have numerous other responsibilities, remember, one of your primary goals, it has to be to create a culture that empowers and encourages others to step up. As a leader, you set the example in everything you do because others are going to follow your lead. The way that I personally define leadership, it's a combination of what many before me have contributed. But I think of things like a process of social influence, someone who can translate vision into reality, a person who can maximize the efforts of others towards achievements of common goals. And they do all of it with a positive attitude, but most of all, a complete willingness to be selfless. As a leader, it's your obligation to see the best in people. You have to have them want to succeed and invest in them. The thing is, we don't need more leaders. Don't lose track on this. We need better leaders with a healthy perspective of what it means to lead. So this all comes down to an important question. How can we encourage others to lead? So what I've done is I've identified what I believe are the top 10 ways of a successful leader to encourage others to lead. First and foremost, you've got to be selfless and completely comfortable in allowing the process of empowerment to occur, thus giving them the authority to make decisions and be accountable. You do not want those who follow you to have any sort of fear or see a barrier in your position for them to be honest or vulnerable or speak in a contrary term. You want people to have the opportunity to voice their opinion and think outside the box. That's where innovation happens. That's where breakthrough occurs. The second thing, allow failure. In fact, if you see tremendous effort and perseverance from somebody on your team, celebrate it. Acknowledge it on the spot. Identify it and get to work on the next plan to achieve your objective. You know, we tend to do one of two things as it pertains to failure. We ignore it and pretend it never happened, or we harp on it like a gotcha moment. And all that does is decrease the morale of the person you're working with to encourage. Here's my thing, evolve or dissolve. If you're old school, if guilt is how you handle situation, it's becoming a nuisance and you're not keeping up with how to lead. If you want to create leaders that innovate, failure is an automatic. Keep pushing them through it and make them find the breakthrough. Next, lead by respect, not by fear. You know, there's still those around who manage, and there are those around who lead. And I know you've heard this before, but it bears repeating. If you are simply managing your people, you're not inspiring anyone. In fact, you're probably doing the opposite. Leaders are leading willing followers who aspire to chase greatness through examples and actions. Once again, I'm going to use that term, evolve or dissolve. If you cannot adapt to this style, it may be time to find a new role and allow others the opportunity to lead with respect. Fear is no longer a motivator. It is time to change. Next, overcommunicate. And that's three things. Communicate often, communicate effectively, and communicate efficiently. It's no different than your shampoo bottle. Wash, rinse, repeat. When you have a clear objective and everybody's on the same page, things are going to happen like clockwork. The precision of an effective team is at its highest performance because there is no gray. It's only black and white. There aren't secret agendas. There's only honesty and accountability for everyone on that team. And the more you talk about it, the more it becomes real. You can never over-communicate. The fifth way, foster collaboration. Now this goes hand in hand with communication, but you've got to create a safe culture where your team can have constructive dialogue, either with you personally or as a group. Give them the individual attention. Listen without interruption. Allow dialogue without giving your opinions. Encourage others to share their contrary viewpoints. But you've got to be constructive and you have to reward honesty, because through these specific discussions, breakthroughs will occur. Number 6, never stop coaching. The thing about leading, it's not a part-time job. As a leader, you're always on stage. That means you've got an obligation to always be a source of knowledge, support, and encouragement whenever needed. Your goal is to create leaders better than yourself, help them reach their goals, and always be an active agent in the process. Remember, vulnerability in this case is powerful, and above all else, you are a coach. Next up, process versus outcome. Now, this is a habit we all fall into, and that's focusing so much on the outcome that we lose perspective of the process. And we hear it a lot. We hear people say, trust the process. But instead, what we tend to do is agonize over the outcome that we actually have no control over. So stay with me on that. How I ended that sentence, I said, we have no control on the outcome. What I mean is, today, we've got to look at the process, not the outcome. Today is the day that we are where our feet are. We work on the little things and focus on the specifics that will take us where we need to be. If we do that consistently, if we follow a plan, if we communicate accordingly, the outcome will take care of itself. But you've got complete control over the right here and the right now. So attack it. Don't be so focused on something that is so distant and out of reach right now that you're losing complete perspective of what's right in front of you. The 8th way to encourage others to lead, it's one word: connection. So this is going to be bad news once again for those people that I referred to as managers as opposed to leaders. If you're from that old school that adheres to the theory that you don't need to get to know your people, they've got a job to do and you pay them to do it, not to be their friend, I've got bad news for you. We're going to go back to what I talked about earlier. Evolve or dissolve. In order to impact and influence others, you've got to connect with them. You've got to get to know them. What are their strengths, goals, aspirations? Where do you see them a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now? How are you going to help them get there? Tell me about their families, their hobbies, and their interests. Who are they outside of the office? You see, this is all part of connection. Being vulnerable and getting outside your comfort zone and actually having a conversation with the people who earn you a paycheck. Let's move forward. The next thing you want to do is set clear goals. There are so many parts of this that go back to communication, but my goal here is to be specific. So with that, setting clear goals is imperative. People cannot accomplish or exceed unless they clearly understand the objective, and that's your responsibility as a leader. Communicate effectively and often what those goals are, and make sure that the entire team is in tune, because with that in place, your team now has the opportunity to go above and beyond expectations. So let's wrap this thing up with number 10. Lead by example. It should come as no surprise to anybody. As a leader, your team members are looking to you as a role model. If you lead efficiently and effectively, your chances of success greatly increase. But you've got to practice what you preach every day. Walk it and talk it. The light's always on you, so play the role. Only the strong survive as leaders. It takes a commitment and a certain sort of empathy that some just can't master. But I know you can, because you were built for this. It's what you've wanted to do for as long as you can remember. So show the way, create the path towards success, so you have the chance to encourage the next generation of successful leaders. Hey, go do big things today. Make an impact. I'm humbled to lead. Have a great week. If you want to learn more about Charge Up, go to chargeuptoday.com. Have a great day, and don't forget, my friends, charge up.
Roger, we'll stop. That was a picture-perfect end to a top-fuel mission. Everybody, welcome back to Earth.
Thanks for listening to Charge Up with Victor Pisano. Subscribe to the podcast at chargeuptoday.com.